Hey everybody, Cole here with Classic Mini DIY, and on today's episode, we're doing something a little bit different today. We are taking my 1960 Classic Mini with the full Haltech Nexus R3 and PD16 setup out to Haltech USA here in Lexington, Kentucky, about 6 hours away, and I have the unique opportunity to spend 3 days working with them, dyno tuning this car and getting it absolutely perfect. And you guys get to come along and see it. So you won't want to miss it. Stay tuned for that. We're going to hit the road. All right, everybody. Today's episode is a really exciting one. This is a little bit longer video because we're going to be going on a road trip out to Lexington, Kentucky to see the Haltech USA headquarters and spend some one-on-one time with their professional, extremely knowledgeable tuning staff to help me get my tune perfectly dialed on my drive-by-wire, fuel-injected, turbocharged A-Series Mini. Now, if you want to see all the technical details about this build and the electronics and everything that's powering it, there should be a link popping up in the corner of this video. So let's get packed up, let's load the Mini up, and let's hit the road for Lexington, Kentucky. And I'll share some details with you while I'm on the road. All right, so now we are on the road on the way to Kentucky. Got about 70% of the way there. It's a 7.5-hour drive for me. So nice single day trip, but it's definitely a long day. So before we get out there, I want to take an opportunity to kind of just go through where we've come from with this car and what we're doing in Kentucky and what the plan is. Now you might know if you've been with the channel for a little while, my car is a 1960 Morris Mini Minor. It originally had an 850cc engine. I bought it from Canada about 12 years ago, and it already had a 1275 swapped in. And since then, I've done quite a few different engine builds. I've done a naturally aspirated build, 2 in fact. I have supercharged it, I have turbocharged it, and then I also adjusted that turbocharged setup, which is what we have now, to a fully fuel-injected drive-by-wire setup run specifically with a Haltech Nexus R3 and a PD16 power distribution module. Now, that's a big mouthful, but the short and sweet of it is that the car now runs a totally modernized fueling and timing system, completely replacing the carburetor with a drive-by-wire setup that I produce and sell on my store. And then, of course, it's powered by a totally modernized ECU, which does also control all of the electronic circuits in the Mini, which means my headlights, my turn signals, all of the power requirements of my Classic Mini are managed through the ECU with no fuses and with a completely modern setup. It has been an absolute joy to build, but it has also been an absolute joy to tune and configure and get running. Now, this trip is a little bit special because Haltech here in the United States is a pretty dominant presence in the drag racing and kind of these really, really high displacement and high power output engines. But my Classic Mini is a little bit different than those types of cars and those type of engines. So I reached out to Haltech, who was already sponsoring this build, and kind of explained, hey, I have this car set up. I've got it probably 85–90% of the way there with the ECU tune. The timing's feeling really good, but there's still kind of these in-between states that I need some help with, as well as some kind of odds and ends tuning that I need help with. And so they said, well, we don't normally do this. Our headquarters is a very specialized shop, so they don't take in like regular cars off the street for ECU tuning. But what they offered me was an opportunity to come out to their headquarters on the East Coast, which is in Lexington, Kentucky, and learn from them directly how to tune my car, best practices, some special things that I'll get into in this episode. I'll show you guys some upgrades we're going to be doing, which are extremely cool for a car that is made, you know, well over 60 years ago. And that's what I'm doing right now. So today, driving out there, should get there pretty late this evening, settle in, and then tomorrow, which is where we'll pick this up next, we'll be at the Haltech headquarters, pulling the car off the trailer and taking a look and getting it on their dyno. So I'm really excited to show you guys this stuff. I'm a big nerd when it comes to like ECUs, software, all of the stuff that comes along with modern cars. I think there's so much potential for really amazing modern setups on classic cars, and I'm excited to show you guys what that could look like on a classic Mini. So I'll see you guys once we're in Lexington and once we pull up to the Haltech headquarters. See ya. All right, so now we are at the Haltech headquarters here in Lexington, Kentucky. And we've got the Mini in the shop. We're getting some things installed on the car prior to getting it on the dyno, but I wanted to give you guys a quick tour of this space. It is super put together, incredibly cool. So first off, spin us over here. They have themselves, of course, a full lift for, you know, doing all the work that they might need to do here. Then moving over, we have a full wheel dyno. And then off to the side, they have two hub dynos. Essentially, they have a fully set up kit here to tune any car and really dial in the ECUs that they're producing here. Now, as I mentioned in the car, I am going to be here for 3 days with a full focus on this classic Mini and getting it running, driving, and learning as much as I can about how to tune these cars, how to set them up, and to share that with you guys. But before we do that, I talked with Haltech and we decided that we should install a few pretty cool parts to prepare for this, so that once it's on the dyno, we can do some really, really cool things like cruise control, different boost maps, and have all of that information displayed easily right there for the driver. Well, what we decided was setting up a small 2x4 CAN keypad, which you can see here, with their CAN gauge. Now this CAN gauge can display any information that I need while I'm driving the car around, whether it's AFR, boost information, timing, coolant temp, whatever I want can be shown on this little gauge here. This is controlled by the ECU via the CAN network. And then of course we have a 2x4 button panel here. Now you can see on each of these buttons, we've got 3 lights. These are multi-function buttons, which allow you to configure different settings in your ECU at the press of a button. And we're going to use that to enable things like cruise control. We're going to set up some additional boost maps to have things like valet mode, perhaps, a road map, and then perhaps a ludicrous mode, or something fun like that. And we can do all sorts of other stuff. Override for the thermo fan, so we can turn on the fan for the radiator at any given point if we wanted to run it while we're sitting in traffic. It's already keyed off of a temperature, but sometimes it's good to be able to override that. And then on top of that, we'll have expandability to do kind of whatever we want with this keypad if I want to add more features in the future. Now, let's jump over to the car because we do have to take the dash off to access my CAN hub and get all of this plugged in. Now, after removing a few screws, pop this dash panel off. Now what we can see here is my little CAN hub. There's a CAN feed right here, and then we've got one extra port, and of course the port for what was in this place, which was a small little Arduino screen that I had that did a pretty good job of displaying the information I need. But this is one of the things that we're upgrading, and our new setup, I'm gonna go right there, nice and tidy, but also easily accessible, while maintaining what I think is a pretty understated look. So if you're looking at the car from, you know, the passenger seat or whatever, you don't have a bunch of new modern stuff visible, and it still preserves that kind of 60s look of the car. So let's get this little plug out. Now we can say goodbye to our old plug here. It was for the Arduino. And the nice thing about these Haltech kits is they come with all of the wires that you need. So really, all we have to do is plug things in into my little CAN hub here, which I do have affixed to the parcel shelf here. So plug in number 1 right there. And it's so funny, they've obviously made these wires for a much larger car, which is fair. Minis are very small, but probably got 400 feet of extra wire here. All right, so we've got those plugged up. I'm gonna go ahead and run my heater vent back up through and also go ahead and mount this. Now you can see I use some industrial strength Velcro here. This is just gonna make this easy to remove if I ever want to take pictures or, kind of make the car look a little bit more factory. All right, so now we have these installed. The wiring is all buttoned up and out of the way. And of course, we did test it prior to putting that panel back on, but let's go ahead and take a look at what it looks like when it powers on. Now we get our gauge turning on, which currently shows the RPM, which is of course 0. Our full panel of buttons here, which are not currently user configured. And then as we bump through here, we can see coolant temperature, RPM. Now, this all, of course, needs to be configured in the ECU. These are CAN devices, so you have to tell it the outputs that you want displayed, and of course, the functions you want the buttons to do, which we'll get into here in just a minute. All right, with the CAN keypad installed and the new gauge installed, it is time to get the sucker up on the dyno and start seeing what we can do about improving the fueling, timing, and overall behavior of this 1960 A-Series engine with a big-ass turbo on it. Now, a lot of people think when you bring your car to the dyno, you roll it on up onto those wheel rollers and you essentially just blast the power and get your power curve and you drive home. When in reality, what happens is you get this on the dyno and you spend multiple hours, in most situations between 2 and 3 hours, tuning your car, dialing in every little bit of the fueling table, the timing table, and then you get into the power runs where you're trying to hit the maximum amount of torque and horsepower you possibly can. So what made this so special this time I had to work here at the Haltech headquarters in Lexington was that we had 3 full days on the dyno. So we could go through every load scenario, every drivability section, every small feature that you could possibly need and get it running perfectly. And so that's what we did. This is the first day, got the car up on the rollers, and as you can see, lots of just kind of like low speed, high speed, rolling through the different gears and trying to dial in each of those fuel maps. But this is the less glamorous stuff that comes with really doing something right. If you want something done right, you spend your time on it, you take your time, and you do it right. And so that's what I wanted to do with this Mini, and that's what Haltech's helping me do here. So we spent essentially the first 2 days on the dyno. We have their primary tuner here, Brad, who was incredibly knowledgeable and such a pleasure to work with. He went through log after log, time after time, dealing with tons of my questions throughout the process and helping me learn this. And we helped dial in the map to the best of its possible ability for this kind of unusual type of fueling system on the Classic Mini. Now, after we finished all of this up, we moved into configuring our CAN keypad. The CAN keypad, what it essentially allowed us to do was add multiple functions to the car with virtually very little configuration. We set up multiple boost maps, some overrides, an ability to turn on and off the data log really easily. I set up hazard lights, which were never on a Mark I Mini. And then of course, the creme de la creme, cruise control on a 60-year-old car. So now we have cruise on and off, the ability to set coast, resume, accelerate, all of the features that you'd expect on a modern cruise system, now operating thanks to drive-by-wire and this Haltech ECU on a 1960 Mini Cooper with an A-Series engine. Super cool. All right, so now we spent some solid time really dialing in the timing, the fueling, and just setting this up for success for us to do some power runs today. Today's day 3, and in order to get the best values we possibly can and really get this running perfectly, we're going to go ahead and swap out the plugs. And I figure, why don't we take a second, take a look at what the plugs look like as we pull them out of the car, because this is what they're going to look like after considerable amounts of excess fuel, as we've been running through this and running through those fuel tables. So we get to see how bad they are, really. So of course, because it is a turbo Mini, it's not super easy to access this number 1 cylinder. Now the Mini, even with the carburetor setup, is known to have kind of uneven fueling across the cylinders. Your inner 2 cylinders are always going to be richer than your outer 2 cylinders. So let's do a quick comparison of cylinder number 4. All right, so after days of running this, you can see this one is cylinder 3, and this one is cylinder 4. And you can see there is a noticeable difference between the 2 of those. Now we have been going through and making sure the fueling is just right across the whole power band. These are not going to look the same way that your carburetor ones might look, but get a little bit closer in there and you can see just how different they look. Now, the plugs that we're going to be putting back in are the same set of plugs, just brand spanking new. The ones I like to use on the classic Mini with a turbo is the BPR 6ES. I use these specifically because I've got an ECU on this car and I need that restrictor in order to reduce the electromagnetic interference that's coming from this high power spark that's being delivered to the engine. Just helps kind of cut down the noise for the ECU. All right, and with the spark plug swapped out with a brand new fresh set, we're going to be able to do a power run. The last thing I'm going to do before I shut the hood is obviously check all of my boost pipes, check everything under the hood, even though it's been on the dyno, especially because it's been on the dyno for the past 2 days. I want to make sure everything's tight and nice, not going to have any issues, damage, nothing like that is going to happen because we're going to send a lot of boost through this and I don't want to break it. Now for some context here, the run we're going to do is at 25 PSI with all of our timing and fueling all set up. We're going to bring it all the way out and see what we can do. This is a 3rd gear pull in the Mini, and let's see what it does. So there you go, a power run on the Haltech Dyno. Now what were the numbers we ended up with? Well, we're looking at about 144 foot-pounds of torque and power. We're actually at 143 on the torque side, but this is exceptional. This is exactly what I was looking for, and I'm so over the moon with these numbers. Now I suspect a lot of you are thinking, wait a minute, Cole, I thought this was a 200 horsepower Mini. And, well, on a different dyno, it was 200 horsepower. And on this dyno, it's 145. And this is one of the things that I can't stress enough as you're doing things like this, is that the number is kind of meaningless. What really matters is how the car drives. Is it actually fast? And are you able to put that power to the ground? Now, with the tuning and the changes to the boost map that we made, this car can actually deliver that power. We smoothed out the boost map so that across the whole power band, we're not seeing some sort of like weird wall of boost, which destroys drop gears. We see a gradual increase in boost from about 2,500 RPM all the way up into the upper 6s. So very happy with this. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Combining that with the drivability of the car, we're now set up with a wonderful Mini for the street, or with the push of a CAN keypad button, a super rowdy, super high boost car that you can bring to the track. All right, so we just got it off the dyno. It's the end of the day on Friday. I'm gonna bring it for a quick spin, kind of get an idea what it feels like, see how it drives. Right, just turned data log on. Sorry about the harsh light. So far, so good. Doesn't stall out when coming to a stop. That's an improvement. Certainly drives better. The boost curve is so much more manageable now, and it eases into the boost. Ooh, beautiful rolling hills out here in Kentucky. Wow, what a difference. The guys here at Haltech have outdone themselves. I can't believe this. All right, so we were on boost map number 1, which was really, really mild. Swapped it over to the next boost map. Little bit of break up there, but it's rad. This is great. Okay, just got done with my first drive, and the difference is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I actually didn't realize the car could drive this well. There is a little bit of breakup in some of the boost range, which I'm data logging right now. We'll bring it back to the guys there to show them, but unbelievable. Just unbelievable. I can't get over how well this drives now. We're gonna zip back. I'm on the strongest boost map now, so we'll get a little bit of spicy on the way back. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm gonna take my mic off. I'm gonna put it a little bit farther in here, so hopefully you don't get any wind noise while I still can keep myself cool. All right, so now we're back in Charlotte after our long trip out to Kentucky, and it was such a wonderful experience to be out there with the Haltech guys. They helped me learn so many things that I actually just don't know if I can get them all out of my brain and into a video. We have some experiments we're going to be running on the intake manifold in some upcoming videos. You won't want to miss that. And you might notice that the engine is a little bit dirtier than it was before. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'm the only one that notices that. But that's because the car also just got back from a week-long rally road experience at Classic Minis United. We covered about 450 miles in our Classic Minis, absolutely thrashing the shit out of them. And all of the work that we did over at Haltech paid off. The car performed exponentially above my expectations, and I just can't say enough good things about it. We do have some things that I broke over that week that I'll be covering in an upcoming episode. You won't want to miss that. There are a lot of little odds and ends related to the turbo, as well as some upgrades, some replacements, some service items, all sorts of fun stuff. It's going to be a good episode. Now, if you have any questions about the dyno experience, the things that I covered in my voiceovers a little while ago, or from my first drive with my resting bitch face, please feel free to post those in the comment section below, and I will be happy to help you guys out. I want to say a huge thank you to Haltech for having me out, and I can say for sure that I'm looking forward to heading out there again after we wrap up the next iteration of some of the improvements, modifications, and experiments we're going to do with this A-Series engine. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and until I see you on the next one, you know the drill. Enjoy those minis and motor on. See you guys.